voice, led from within. With me today, Dr. Biget Tan. Dr. Biget Tan, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, depending on where you are. Let me ask you, do you ever known somebody, perhaps a loved one in your life, perhaps a colleague who experienced some tough things in life? It's things that just seems to be a trauma, sometimes one after another, and at some point the person's told you that it feels like perhaps it's yourself who that it feels like the world just don't understand you, and then it feels like you are in this dark place where you just can't get anywhere. How could you even get out from this dark place of grief after something happened? And if that someone you know is experiencing, or it's something maybe your experience, listen up and we'll let you know how is it that you will be able to move forward. There's a misunderstanding. People say, "Oh, I just can't get over this situation, this trauma, this grief." Well, you know what? No wonder, because getting over is a lot of times not the way to go. But listen up and see how you'll be able to move forward. And this is and I'm Dr. Ten, and I'm a grief transformation specialist. And this is one of the things that I help people. So I look forward to connecting with you if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Biget. So today, basically, we're talking about grief, and Dr. Biget she's a grief coach and transformation coach, and so grief. The world doesn't seem to understand my pain. I feel so alone. When our lives is clouded by pain, uh, what we can't see clearly where we are going, because everything in front of us is all cloud of pain, insecurity, loneliness. And this world exists because we have created it through grief. And it will leave this world. It will stop existing when you decide basically to break the chains of grief. But is it easy to get out of this world that it would have created? It is not easy. And also, grieving is different. There are so many people who basically beat themselves. Why do I feel like this? So I'm gonna let Dr. Biget basically explain this topic, because she is a grieving coach and she understands more about the grieving, and she's seen clients coming to her, and they're grieving, they're broken, they are all surrounded by cloud, but when they leave, they are surrounded by this beautiful world. They can see their lives clearly. They can climb the mountains very clear, knowing where they are going. So over to you, Dr. Biget, please. Oh, you're muted.
There you go. Yeah, a lot of time people come and say, I am in this grief, and how something happened, and how could I get over this? Well, part of the reasons I think it's can be so challenging for people to move beyond, to move forward from their experience, is actually because there are so many misunderstandings about grief. And I will be sharing about this a little bit more actually in my event, one of them being this Wednesday, 12:30 p.m. Pacific, or 8:30 p.m. UK. And that is something where the concept of having of being able to move over and move over, it's kind of like if you ever have and hear anybody say, oh, let get over it. Get over that something that happened. That get over that your loved one passed away. Get over that someone raped you. Get over that this and that happened, and just kind of like almost like you want the person to be able to forget it and just goes on with life. That's not, in many cases, that's not even a possibility. But then the other side of that is, so one group of people a lot of times says, get over it, be positive, think positive, realize that you create your life, so create your life, be positive, and get over this and get over that. I have a client whom I'm working with right now who lost a loved one, and for many people doesn't seem like a maybe a big deal, because yes, the loved one was a former lover and a friend, but it's not even her, let's say, her parents or something, but it's just, oh, you should just be able to get over it and be positive and things. It doesn't matter if whether it is your parents or whether it's your child, whether it's your friend, whether it's your pet, even if it hurts you, it hurts you, and it's not something you can just get over and forget. That the truth is, relationships never end. You can never forget somebody. If you really think about this, if you ever have a time, you going around with your adult life and somebody says something, or you hear a music or what have you, and then it suddenly make you remember this childhood friend when you were 10 whom you have not heard from for the last 25 years, and actually has not been in your mind for the last perhaps 15 years until just now. That's a proof that relationship never end. And so getting over like that is not something even a realistic thing. But the other side of that is, the other part of the misunderstanding is people then say, okay, well, I can never get over something. True. Which means if something happened, then I am trapped. I see in a lot of the grief group that I seen for instance, on social media, people say it's, once you grieve forever. Once you grieve, you wake up every morning with your heart broken. Once you grieve, and it sounds almost like a life sentence. Don't you think it sounds like a life sentence? Once this happened, you'll be miserable forever. Once this happened, you'll be sad forever. I think there is a song here in the US at some point a couple decades ago that says, "Oh yeah, no, once my heart's broken, it heart breaks forever." Hello, that's really really sad, and that's the misunderstanding. If yes, it's possible. Some trauma are horrific and horrendous, but it is possible, and we'll share in a little bit part of it. But it is possible for somebody to be able to recover from it. And I actually, one thing come to mind. One time we have a lady who experienced, she received help for grief from multiple losses. Actually, this lady lost her unborn child, and the reasons that happened was actually because she was gang raped. She was pregnant and she was gang raped. That resulted in her losing her child, and then beyond that, actually it result in her enough damage to her system, biologic system, physical reproductive system, that she could not have children anymore. And on top of that, her husband was killed. She also lost her husband during this incident. And now just to hear atrocities that she experienced make make me feel sick to my stomach, to be honest. It was like, what? How could this kind of atrocity and these people, well, the people who did all this trauma did not even get punished. I mean, can you imagine this? But this lady, instead of become a victim of this whole thing, she decided to do the work. Did it take work? It takes definitely some work to be, and was able to recover, to not live in the anger, not live in the sadness, not live in the bitterness, and to be able to be, she's one of the most peaceful, happy persons doing a lot of humanitarian work as well as around work really greatly. And so it's possible for you to be able to move forward. And so I just asked let me stop you there, Numsa, and ask you, have you ever experienced either of these, that people have, perhaps you notice somebody say, have something and you say, you know what, you need to get over it. Somebody say to you, you need to get over it. Or you might have known people who said, you know what, I'm in this emotional pain and I will just be here forever.
Actually, I've been basically involved with so many people that are in pain. But when they are in pain, they actually ignore the pain that they are going through. They are now having to deal with people that are judging them, because when you're going through something, you need to focus on what you're going through. And they end up focusing on what people are saying, get over it. So they'll be coming to me and say, wow, someone has been horrible to me, and I'm going through this, but I told them my problem and they're telling me to get over it. And then now they're like feeling that that person is horrible to them. So I'm like, but why are you worried about what they think in the first place? You need to pick people that you tell them your problems. If somebody feels that get over it, they don't want to listen to your problems, then you end up worrying about them, but instead of worrying about what you're going through. So focus on the pain, what you're going through. Don't worry about what people are saying. And at the same time, I have experienced where people are going through grief, but instead of actually focusing on that grief, they are focusing on the blame. They are blaming the dead person. So I'm thinking, okay, this person is dead. Whatever they have done, whatever they did, they're still in control in that situation. So obviously, I'm not going to tell that person that you need to actually focus on the grieving, because it's painful when someone hurt you, or if somebody dies, like a parent, you are not in a good relationship with that person. It's painful to accept grief. It's painful to accept the relationship that is no longer going to be repaired anymore. So for me, basically, I'm not a grieving coach. You are a grieving coach, Dr. Bigot. For me, what I see is if I've been hurt and somebody is dead, all I need to focus is that hurt is a grief. That death is a grief. Focus on what basically on the grieving, focus on the healing, because the healing you is the most important thing that anyone can ever, a gift that anyone can ever give you. Focus on that healing. Find a professional coach like Dr. Bigot, like you, Dr. Bigot. You are a professional coach. And if somebody is going through something, and if you are listening, there are so many people. We live in this world where, like Dr. Bigot, you're talking about this person that was raped. You are talking about this person that her husband was killed and she was raped. We live in this world where it's a painful world. It's got beautiful life, but it's got painful things that could have happened to you. We don't ask for it. So if you are somebody and you are saying this person, they've gone through all this, but they are still being positive. They still want to go through healing. They still want to do all the things that normal people do. And they're normal as well. They didn't ask for it. So for me, basically, if anyone is watching, Dr. Bigger is speaking about grief, I would just say focus on you, focus on your healing. Because for me, basically, it took me years and years to accept the death of my father, to accept the death of my stepfather. I had two fathers in my life. And when I had two fathers in my life, and 1 minute they're gone, these people were the people that raised me. Growing up as a child, they were the people that if I didn't have food, I'll go and speak to them. If I wanted clothes, I'll go and speak to them. If I wanted to talk about life, I'll go and speak to them. But that world didn't exist anymore. So it took me a very, very long time. But even though I had a psychologist working with me, there was still inside of me for me to get rid of it, to get rid of it completely in my life. I didn't understand the process of healing at the time. So it took me a long time. I didn't understand. I didn't know that they were grieving coach. The only thing I knew was a therapist. I just went to a normal therapist, so I didn't know anything about grieving coaches that existed. I didn't know, so I just focused with a normal therapist. So if anyone is watching and you're going through all these different pains in your life and you feel alone, and there are some people as well that they're married, they have husband, been married for long time, they feel alone. And that world is the world that we have accepted it, we've created it, and it's clouded with pain. And for you to get out of it, you need someone like Dr. Bigot. So yes, Dr. Bigot, I have experienced it. I have met friends that are they lost their loved ones, and go through that pain. You can see the pain when they speak. It's not easy. Like most of my friends, we live in United Kingdom, and their parents they die in Africa. Sometimes they can't go there because of money. Sometimes it's COVID. Sometimes some people die, they still haven't got the rights here. They're still fighting the battles to get papers to stay in the United Kingdom, with the rights to stay United Kingdom. And they can't go home. So those are the experiences that I have experienced in my life where I see pain. When I mean pain, I see someone going through pain. And for me as a person, there is nothing I can do rather than listen to that person. No, listen to understand their pain and not to give advice. I'm no therapist, so I only give advice when somebody is going off the grief, and I say, listen, focus on you. Right now is all about you, not anybody else.
And that is actually a good advice because a lot of time people, so a couple things that you mentioned in there. One being a lot of people go to therapists, counselor, psychiatrist, you name it, social worker in any combination of that. And and unfortunately, in a way, for the people, a good majority of my clients has been to therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, social worker, and a very fair number of them got into a basically a breaking point because the therapies and counseling and so forth not helpful with the grief, that they eventually says, okay, you know what, maybe we should go find a grief specialist. Now there's nothing against, please don't take this in a way that I'm against therapy or counseling. I think there is a great place for therapy, there is a great place for counseling, and in the majority of the time though, it's kind of like almost if you have a broken leg and you go to your primary care doctor, or with grief People go to their neighbors, like you said, or they go to their friend and said, I got a broken leg, come help me. Well, your friend and your neighbor and your primary care doctor, if they don't know any better, they will try to help you. But if you got a broken leg and you go to your neighbor, your friend, or your primary care doctor, unless the doctor happened to be specifically trained in healing and doing surgery with broken legs, so to say, which most naturally the reason their primary care is they are not, then they might not. Then they will do the best they could, but they are not going to be able to have the tools and skill to specifically address your broken leg and help you heal it properly. And even if you not now, even if your leg reunites, so for instance, it'll heal with so much calluses and so forth in a broken leg that it continue to cause a lot of pain and secondary damage to your body. And the same in some similar understanding with a broken heart. When you get a broken heart and you go to your neighbor, your friend, or your primary care counselor or therapist, then a lot of time they use the tool they have. Neighbors and friends uses the thing that everybody hear about grief, which is a lot of them. Actually, I'm doing a free talk on the 11 myths of grief. There's myths or misunderstanding about grief that unfortunately for most of us it's only caused more damage than good, all these myths. And being a myth, it's kind of like about, but a myth would be a belief that people believe, but it's not actually correct, nor it's serving anybody. And so that is one. And then with the counselor or the therapist, they're all doing great job, but the difference between being grief specialist and being counselor or general life coach, in general. And I'm a grief transformations because I am a grief coach. I am trained to 4 different institutions for grief, but I'm also a life coach, so I understand the approach with the difference between the life coaching and the grief coaching. I also understand the difference between counseling, therapy, and grief, being a grief specialist. And the main difference is actually, I just want to speak briefly about this. Main difference is being a therapist, counseling, their number one job, literally, is to create understanding. That is what therapy is all about. In general, there are new different versions of therapy now, but in general, the therapy is about creating an understanding why do you behave this way, why do you behave that way, and on this and so forth. So a lot of people griefers end up having great understanding. I understand why I'm so angry and I can't get rid of the anger. Understand why I feel this way. I understand why this and I understand why that. A lot of understanding. Awesome. Really good to understand your behavior. It does not help the person who are grieving. And this is the same thing. Life coach says the same thing with counseling. Life coach says, well, counseling help you understand your behavior, but it doesn't help you take action to be able to move forward promptly and steadily and create the result you want in a year or 2 or 3 instead of in 10, 20, 30 years. So that is great to have understanding, because sometimes we do need to understand why we're doing such and such, but it doesn't help the person release the grief. It doesn't help the person move forward from the feeling of pain. It doesn't help the person release the pain on a day-to-day basis as well as a whole. And that's the difference between grief coaching. It's specifically designed in a very step-by-step manner, such that you release this and this and this and this part of your pain. There are multi-layer part of pain, and we actually do a very systematic approach to release them step by step. And this is also the same thing with the difference between grief coaching and life coaching. Life coachings, if you ever hear the word be positive, anybody hear this? Have you ever heard this, Numsa? Be positive, be strong. When you are a life coach, by all means, you want somebody to be positive. You want somebody to be strong, keep going kind of things, and rah, rah, rah. And by all means, it's good. There is a great place for that. And I am actually very well trained. If you've seen a lot of my posts, some people say, oh, all your posts are very positive. Some of them very positive, and some of them actually misunderstood as being a positive post. And it's a great thing when you're doing life coaching to be positive. When you are working with griefer, though, the reason sometimes people who are grieving truly grieve deep in their heart, and they go to life coaching and they actually end up getting hurt more, not getting help, is because there are sometimes a place in us where we are in so much grief that the positivity feels like acid being poured on your wound, and it make you feel completely misunderstood. And if that's you, if you are hearing this where you're like, I will vomit if I hear somebody else says be strong, I will lose it altogether if somebody else says, it's been enough time of crying, and this and that, then please know that I hear you, and I can only imagine how adding more pain it is to the pain you already are experiencing. And that is, there are place and time for everything, and sometimes it's not the time to be positive, but it's actually the time to first address the pain, to first heal from the pain, and then we can talk about being positive. But right now, if you are in deep pain, and then what we want to know is actually to acknowledge the pain. We cannot you cannot really run from it and pretend it's not happening either. To want to acknowledge the pain, to allow it, to give it space, and then to honor it. And to honor it is to address it. And there is a difference between addressing it, honoring it, versus coping with it. Coping means, a lot of people say, well, I can still cope. It's kind of like coping. Imagine this: you got a broken leg, and you take Tylenol with codeine 4 times a day so you can keep walking. Does it make sense? Most people say no, it doesn't. So what end up people doing actually is the same thing with grief. With grief, you don't necessarily take Tylenol with codeine 4 times a day, but what you do is you end up doing what the Grief Recovery Institute calls STIRP, which is a certain particular set of behavior to help you cope with your grief and your pain from your grief. And then you keep going. And just like if you take Tylenol with codeine to mask the pain of a broken leg, guess what? Over time, you need more and more and more. Over time, it stopped working. And then over time, if you take so much Tylenol with codeine, then you got stomach bleeding from the Tylenol, addictions from the codeine, and you ruin your lives altogether anyway. And that's not something what we want to happen for you. And the same thing with grief. You end up doing this behavior, whether it's alcohol, whether it's work, whether it's exercise, whether it's shopping. You end up spinning in circle of this, and then you go from one and stop. The party stop helping, you go into something else, and then you go into, okay, that doesn't help, you go into meditation. How long are you going to meditate? 8 hours a day? How's the rest of your life? And so that is something that we just want to know, that it's not for you to cope. You deserve more than that. You deserve more than coping. You deserve to be well, and not having to run around with pain and try to to mask the pain by doing something else. Try to not feel the pain by doing something else. And like Numsa said earlier, at the end of the day, though, it is your choice. That is your choice to do, to it's your choice to want to cope. I'm just gonna keep coping with this pain until I can't cope anymore, and it's called breaking point. And then by then you come to a grief coach in such a state that, yes, thankfully we can still help you, but you suffer an additional 2 years for no good reason. or you choose to say enough is enough, and the damage is we're not going to continue to be living in this pain, because when you are in pain, you make everybody pain. You actually cause everybody to be close to you to be in pain as well. I mean, have you ever seen? Have you ever experienced that, Numsa, perhaps on your own, or know somebody who, because they are so much in pain from loss, from grief of any cause, one of the 40 causes of grief, that they are so much in pain. They have the best intentions for everyone else's, but at the same time, because they are in pain, it's actually influenced the life of people around them.
Yeah, I actually, my stepmom died in 2019 or 2018. I can't remember. Too much coronavirus going on. I think it was 2018, 2019. So I could see my siblings, they were so much in pain. And but that pain, it made me realize that when somebody is so much in pain and they are reckless, and at the same time I've learned from them, from their grieving, because for me I had worked out how to grieve properly using the Bible basically. But before, I think I would have struggled, because when somebody dies, it's not easy to let them go. So that moment when she died, I went into denial for a little bit, but then I decided to pray. And also, we were doing the grieving lives as well, and it was helping. That was before we doing grieving lives. I think I was like reading the Bible and just reading and using also my psychology training as well. But what I've realized with the psychology is good with the grieving and everything else, but you can learn the framework and accepting and fostering the acceptance and the mindset. You can manipulate your mindset, your behavior, basically to avoid producing chemicals into your brain. You can use psychology to do so many things, but it is tough. It is hard to actually, if you're basically not working with a proper grieving person, you need somebody who specializes with that. Even though psychologist, you can trigger the pain, you can trigger this, but what I've realized is there was still some things within me that was left, and I've seen it with my siblings as well. I've seen it with people around me as well. And when people are grieving things, they don't, it get messy. It really get messy for some people. But for some people, they use the Bible. They'll tell you that everything is in God's hands. There are some people that who are amazing. They lose their loved ones, they accept straight away that they're gone. One day they will be able to see them if they go in heaven. But they basically get this love, that they hold on to the love that they had. But there are some that basically they go into pain and it gets messy, and sometimes it gets really difficult, because grieving basically, you have experienced, Dr. Biget. Grieving is a journey, and each and every person, their pain is unique. And even those ones they'll say to you, I've accepted it, and you still have to listen to them without giving them the advice, so that you can guide them through as a friend or as a family member, and be there for them and influence the influence. Basically, for me, basically what I've learned from people who are grieving, basically they have taught me that pain is no good. I do not want to be in pain. The way I see them, like my friend lost her mom, I could see her. She was basically restless. She was in so much pain, and I was like, I don't want to be in so much pain like the way she's going through. When my mom dies, like if I do lose my parent, my mom, she's alive. If she was to die today, I do not want to go there. I want to experience the love that I have with her. Ask as much questions. I know that we're not gonna be here forever. We're all gonna go. So I like to love your loved ones. Hold on to them. That's the only thing. The most thing that destroys people is when someone dies, there's unfinished business. It destroys. When there is unfinished business, some questions that are unanswered. And also love. If you have beautiful memories with your loved ones, it hurts. The good memories, they hurt the most. So just ask so many questions to your loved ones before they go, or just hold on to them, your siblings. Hold on to them. I see people, like sometimes I'll ask you, how is your siblings? They'll be like, I don't know and I don't care. So I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah. But when that person goes, it hurts the most, because they are no longer there to answer the questions, even if you couldn't stand each other. But bloodline is bloodline. We cannot change. We can change friends, even our friends that we build a relationship with. When they go, they leave pain behind. So for me, basically, I've learned to use the Bible to actually deal with the pain. And I have also learned to actually see what does it mean when people say I'm gonna go to hell, when people say I'm gonna go to heaven. The hell is on earth. When you hold on to pain, there is no way God can heal you. Or when you die, you accept and say, God, I leave this pain behind. But if you are holding on to pain, that is a sin. So I think it is very, very important. If you're going through challenges, you're going through grieving, or grieving is, it comes in so many ways. It could be a grieving of rejection, being rejected by spouse, being rejected by family members. Like Dr. Biggety was saying about rape. Some people have been raped. They never asked for it, but it happened. Some people have been abused in those relationships. They come out of a relationship, they go through the process of grieving. You go through the healing. Why did I have to? It starts by blaming. It starts by, why didn't I see the signs? Why did I date that person? Guess what? People change. So all you gotta do when you are going through pain is focus on you. It starts with you. Whatever you do in life, the pain, it starts with you. Not blaming your spouse. You can blame somebody who has moved on to abuse somebody else. All you can do is just to pray for your life, for that healing, for God to touch your heart, touch your heal you, so you can be free and not living in chains of death, the chains of rejection, the chains of not enough, chains of I'm not this, I'm not this. But there is a freedom, Dr. Biggett. You are basically a grieving coach. You know that when we decide to live in those chains, there is pain after pain. But if we decide to free ourselves, there's freedom in it. So for me, basically, what I want to know is, if somebody has this question, like I think that the question is already on the thing, or how do I grieve sooner? Is there any quick magic for grieving? Like to say you can do these steps and grieve sooner.
Right. So that is a wonderful question. And can you can you heal from grief sooner? Absolutely. And like you said, Nooms, I love what you said just now. Though I two things I want to mention because I just love it. You know, you said it very well. With psychology, it's about your mind, And even with life coaching, it's about your mind. If you hear about psychology, about how the mindset this and the mindset that, and if you are in life coaching, one of the most famous life coach is the late Bob Proctor. How he talk about the mind and the mind, the mind. Psychologists address the mind as well as life coaching address the mind in your behavior. You know, when you're grieving, it's not a mind business, it's a heart business. When you are grieving, if you are in pain, people don't usually say, I am so grieving. I wake up this morning, my mind hurts. Sometimes they wake up with a headache. But what hurt, what feel when they are, if you're grieving and you just hurt so much, usually what hurt is in your chest because your heart hurts so much. So people say, I feel I'm grieving and I feel as if I'm suffocated. I can't breathe. Where do you breathe? In your chest. And so grief is heart grief is heart business, not mind business. And this is why when you address it with the mind and you you leave the heart behind, the heart is still screaming in pain. And so how could you do that? Well, the best way to address the pain is use a very a reliable, proven, evidence based. All the thing that I teach through my coaching is through evidence based, and it is a step by step system. Now, like like you say, Numsa, it will take a journey. It doesn't. You don't come to me today and then I wave a magic wand. Which is when I was a doctor, some of my clients say, "Can you wave a magic wand so we feel fine by in the next hour or tomorrow?" No, there is no magic wand, unfortunately, for us in this life. Even if, let me ask you this: even if you, let's say, you have a, some people got a tooth root abscess. They got a tooth root abscess, or you got an infections on the root of your tooth, one of your tooth. If you go to the dentist and it's your face is swollen big from a tooth root abscess, the dentist will say, okay, well, before we can even dig it out, we need to give you antibiotics so the infections doesn't spread throughout your body. And then from there, we need to address this, and then we need to address that, and then we need to do root canal. And then after the root canal, we will need to do to close the root canal. And then after that, we will need to do the crown, and then we need to fit the crown until, and then you're good to go. And it's a step by step process. And the same thing with the grief, moving through and beyond your grief. Again, not to get over, because get over is the, imagine the concept. Get over is almost like jumping from one place to the other. Now you are in this pit bottom state of grief where everything feels dark, and somebody say, let's get over that. Come on, get over that. Jump up here where there is light. You've been in so much pain. Your heart's been broken. It's kind of like almost like you break both of your legs. You fell into a pit that is deep, like a well, and somebody said, "Yep, yep, okay, up here. Let's get over. Jump, 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 jump. Oh, you can do it. You can do it. Yeah, yeah. You strong. You strong." What do you think? Are you crazy? I can't even stand. How am I gonna get up there? What you need is somebody to say, "Okay, all right, let me let go down something. Can we get can you grab this ladder? No, then we'll give you something else. And yes, now let's make sure that you save, make sure that you are not going to hurt yourself more. And that's one of the thing actually I do as a grief coach. The first step really in being able to get to heal your broken heart is what Numsa says. You choose. You gotta choose. You can choose to say, I'm gonna try to cope with this, continue coping, so to say, and in the meantime influence your life, like you said, Numsa. It's when somebody is grieving, it's a messy thing, because what happened is two things when you are grieving. The first thing is when you are grieving, you usually not in the quite correct. You're not quite in the heart space, and even mind space that you want, because the HeartMath Institute, one of the institutions that I'm certified with, has shown that the energy or the vibrations from your heart, where you're sitting right there, people can easily measure it 3 to 6 feet outside of you. So imagine if your heart screaming pain, 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 and then you're like, I'm gonna act strong. I'm going to act strong. I'm going to act well around my children, around my spouse, around my coworker. But your heart is emitting this pain, 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 because you are in pain from your grief. Guess what? Anybody around you within 3 to 6 feet around you, up to definitely in 3 feet, all the way up to 6 feet, and maybe even further, can feel that. Even if you sit there and smiling, watching TV, and making yourself laugh at the TV with your kids next to you, your loved ones around you, or your colleagues, it affected them. It messed them up, not just mess you up. That's one thing. And then not to mention, when we are grieving, the HeartMath Institute shows that the vibration and the energy and the message from your heart is much faster and much stronger. This is just on everyday basis than the one coming from your brain. So if your heart is screaming pain, 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 and your brain say, be good, be good, be good, move on, move on. It doesn't matter. It's override it. It's override everything in your body. Your heart is your number one organ in your body. And so that's why all this, the mindset doesn't work, because it never make it to the heart. The heart screams louder and faster. And so when that happened, the first thing is literally you have to choose. You got to choose whether you want to be sitting in this pain, and whether you want to continue afflicting afflicting your loved one. There is a lady not that long ago who came to me and said, well, so I'm in pain, so what? And I said, do you have children? So she has children. She has small children, and she has a husband. And she said, well, yeah, my husband's noticed I'm grieving and I'm not myself, but my children don't know, because I put on a happy face. I'm like, this is what happening. You can put on a happy face with your children, but this is, are you even able to be present? This is like, no, but I kind of can fake it. Okay, you can fake it on your face, but your energy can't fake it. And she's like, well, yeah, I actually noticed that when I am really feeling it, then my kid get restless for seemingly no reason. Why? Because they feel your energy. And so the first place is really for you to choose that you are going to love your loved ones who are still here, and yourself and your work just as much, and actually ask for help and allow help. That is the very first place to do that, and make sure that you receive the correct kind of help for these situations. That somebody who are, and I'm not the only person in the world who is a grief specialist, but go get a grief specialist if your heart is broken. It's a heart business, not a mind business. You can go to every mindset coach and every mindset counselor. If they're working with your mind, you need your heart taken care. And I have been through both. I'm trained in multiple different level, and so there is a difference. Even the way I work with my life coaching client and grief clients is very different. And so it's a big difference. First place is choose and decide, and then accordingly you need to take action. And everybody works differently. There are some coaches who, like you said, Numsa, very much uses the system, but also incorporate the Bible into their work. And there are and do know that sometimes for some people the Bible can help acceptance and create peace. And some people, because you are in so much pain, you say, yeah, well, then why God is so cruel? Why am I going through this? They don't deserve it. It's a that was a 10 years old kid. Why is God so cruel for this 10 years old and for me? And if that is something that's going on in your heart, I hear you, and I can only imagine how painful it must have been. And just know that I hear you, and everything that you feel, whether you feel that God is helpful, whether you feel God is wonderful, whether you feel God is cruel, your feelings are valid, and I am here for you. And so that there are sometimes that, and but everybody, there are different grief coaches, and we all help you in systematic way. But the first place really is to choose and then take the actions. If you choose and say, yeah, I want to heal, but then you go sit on the couch on the sofa and do nothing else, it's not going to get anybody anywhere. And at the same time, if you say, okay, then you know what, let me call up this person's, let me call up that person's, let me seek this somebody who are specifically is a grief specialist, not general counseling, then that is the first place. And everybody has different systems. And in general, practically everybody will tell you the first place is to acknowledge what you're going through, not keep putting a blindfold, and then to honor it. And how you honor it, it comes from person to person. It's different system, and not only that, each individuals need to be approached very differently. One person come to you, you can say, "Yep, this is gonna work for you," and then a different person come to you, and you say, "You know what? Doing it this way is not going to work for you, and this is how you want to approach." So a skillful and well trained experienced grief coach will be able to adapt to you to help you heal. And so that also means if you've been through coaching, you've been through counseling, you've been through maybe a particular. I have one person very recently who says, I went to this system. This is actually a fairly known grief system out there. And she said it doesn't work. It just make me very uncomfortable. So what can we do? And I said, well, apparently we're going to do use a completely different approach. And truth be known, I'm familiar with that system, and to a small degree, I use some of their system. And I said, okay, as somebody who's experienced and well trained, after helping people with grief for 25 years, I said, no worry. If doesn't work for you, even though that's a grief system, we're going to approach it different. We're going to do it this way, in a way that it will help you and work for you. And so everybody's different. There's no cookie cutter when it comes in grief, because everyone has different feelings, and your feelings valid, you are valid. What we want to do is find something that works for you, that will help you heal your heart, not forget things, not get over things, but to heal your heart, and be able to move forward.
Get over it. This word just sounds so horrible. If anyone has ever said it to somebody, please don't say it. It's yeah, it don't say it. It's really, really horrible when someone is saying it and I'm not. I'm listening when I'm listening, and focusing on it in my mind. It's not really a good word. And I love it, Dr. Biggett, when you say people should go to professional therapist that that specializes with the grieving. For me, basically, as a coach, I'm a relationship coach. I studied psychology, and I can see that basically there are some things that I can deal with myself, but there are things that I can't deal with it myself. I need a coach that specializes with whatever I'm going through, and that coach has to be a good coach, because I've gone through pain, and when somebody is being a mumbo jumbo telling me things that don't make sense, I can see it that these things don't make sense. But I've attended your events, and there are so many things that I couldn't understand what the extent of grieving, how deep it goes. I couldn't understand it, but now I do understand it, that this is the effect of grief, how much it can affect you, and how much the pain that it could actually go through until it basically damages our brain, it damages our with, or maybe we go through depression and things like that. Is but we do have a choice to actually seek help, not to let it go through deep. But there are some people that basically they believe this word of, if I tell people this is what I'm going through, I'm gonna be told to get over it. Like, we come from different cultures, they have different beliefs, different values. Like in my culture, when you tell people about your problems, it means that you are being very weak. But not in my family. My family, my mom, I talk to my mom about my problems. I talk to my dad. I used to talk to my dad and my step parents about my problems. But with other families, they have to keep themselves to themselves. The families will feel embarrassed when somebody talks about what they are going through. But for me, basically, if you are watching, it's not this, the pain is not about anybody else, it's about you. It's about what you're going through. For those who are in silence, there's some people who have been molested and who have been abused, who feel ashamed because of their cultures. I think Indian cultures is similar to African culture, where basically you have to keep things to yourself. Uh, but in the real world, it doesn't work like that. It's pain. So you have to seek a help. You have to ask somebody to help you. There are so many coaches out there who basically they can help you. Even if you go through the hospital, the doctors can refer you to a professional therapist. Or even here on social media, even on YouTube, you see other therapists, they say, get in touch with me, I've got a free course. It's just those little things that you can access that can help you with your mindset. If you can afford it, just access those free training or have a consultation with them. Find out, you have a consultation with Dr. Biget, find out if she can actually help you moving forward with your grief. Because when you're feeling all alone, it's very, very painful. And when you're feeling that no one understands your pain, it's very, very painful. There are some people who are grieving when they start explaining their problems. Mostly in this world, coaches, they listen because they're trained and because they know what even though we don't know what you're going through, but we know the pain. When somebody says I'm in pain, we know they are really in pain. But there are some people who are not coaches. When you tell them, they're like, oh, this one, she's always talking about her problems. Instead of giving advice to say, seek help, they are like, oh, this one, they gossip about that person. So if somebody comes to you, if anyone is listening and they're going through problems, direct them to the right direction. Of course, you can't give them advice because you are not a therapist, but you can direct them to seek help. At Ngozi Talk shows, we have coaches that can help you and direct them to the right direction. You don't go and gossip about them behind their back and say, oh, this one, she's still mopping them, or she's still getting over. She does not want to get over the death of her mother or the death of her father. The things that people say behind people's back, you will be surprised. If our creator could actually play it back to us, we'll be ashamed, we'll be disgraced. So if someone is going through pain, guys, just try to help them out by directing them to the right direction. Sometimes their website where somebody can get help. I do understand that those who are living in countries where there's no help, but I believe that in every place where you are, there is a help. It's only doing some research and finding out where you are. Like now, we can do things virtual. So we don't need, all you things you need is the internet. It's like for me, if someone was to call me and say, no, sir, I'm going through pain, the first thing I'll be thinking, the last thing I'll be thinking about is the money. How are you gonna pay me? I want to hear your pain, and I want to direct you to the right direction and make sure that you got proper healing. So, any words of encouragement, Dr. Biget, before we leave?
Yeah, and actually, two little things. You mentioned for people who are, say, living in different country. There are countries with very limited resource. Just on that base, when I work people with different country, I work people with people from Africa, and for instance, and the exchange rate between Africa and the US is quite magnificent. That for some people, they're like, that's not even something I make in a month or a year, and so I actually, to a degree, I accommodate exchange rate. I mean, most coaches like, what? No, no, but no. I mean, if you need help, you need help. Like Numsa says, if you are in pain, the last things we are sitting here, it's like, let me see how many more pennies can I add to my bank account. So I actually accommodate to a good degree exchange rate. If you come from a country, you're like, yeah, well, the dollar to whatever is just ridiculous. Don't get discouraged. You might have help now that you know the understanding and the difference between grief specialists and counseling, and between grief, the difference between mindset and heart set, so to say, and between life coaching and grief coach. Now you know what exactly you need help from, and you might have that in your country, and at the same time, if you don't, feel welcome to reach out, and I will do everything I could to help you, even taking into account the exchange rate of the currency, because life is life. And beside that, I would say, in terms of the encouragements, is to ask help. There is a saying, hurt people. You got this? Hurt people hurt people. And sometimes it's not because you are being mean to somebody, and not because you snap at someone or you treated someone else poorly because you are hurting, but just because everything is vibrations, and everything is energy, with which something, even Einstein say that. And we know that your energy is transmit outside your body. Just you being there, hurt everyone around you, and usually the one that closest to you to be able to get hurt by you are your loved ones. So hurt people hurt their loved ones, and so I would encourage you, know that there is help, there is hope, and all you need to do is choose and take the actions, and then allow yourself some, seek out for help, and allow yourself. And does it require investment? Yes, but what's the value of not just you, but also your loved ones' well-being?
You so much, Dr. Biget. And if anyone is watching, please follow us on our social media and get in touch with Dr. Biget and find out how she can help you. Don't feel so alone on your own, because it is normal to feel alone. Losing someone or going through pain is not an easy journey. I've gone through so much pain myself, losing my loved ones through death. I've gone through so much pain through the divorce, and so many things that I can list for you. But and for me to be able to actually climb the mountain and basically find peace within myself is because I've been able to basically to want healing, the desire of wanting to be healed, the desire of the freedom, the desire of wanting me to live that life where there is no pain, there is joy, there is Dr. Biget, you always write about joy, you always write about gratitude and all those things. And every time now whenever I'm going through pain or whenever there is something going on, I have my note that is on my computer. Actually, it tells me basically there's a question every time I feel like I'm not fortunate or I'm feeling sorry. I'm in this feeling sorry mood. I have to read this note. How many people die every minute around the world? So that helps me to seek help. If there is something that I'm going through, I seek help, I'll go and seek help, and then I'll be free from that pain. So you can do the same by going through that pain. And please don't worry about what people will think. People will always make up stories about pain or about people. So and also, when you are in pain, that means your loved ones, they go through pain as well because of what you're going through. So it's nice to free your family and live that amazing life that God has created you to be. And we are here at Nkosi Talk Shows Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time. And Dr. Bigot, what's your website?
My website is Joyful Riches Beyond Grief. You can reach me on my website, make an appointment there, Joyful Riches Beyond Grief. You can also reach me through this talk show or my social media, Birgit Onitan. I'm on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram.
Yeah, and also the website is attached to uh, our YouTube channel and all our social media at the bottom of the video. If you want to get in touch with Dr. Biget, and she's also having an event regarding grief on Wednesday. If you basically are somebody that is going through something, please join her in that event and ask is the questions that you love to ask and work with her and live with grace, everyone, and God bless.